and welcome to Center of Weirdness, the weird podcast about very weird stuff, but mostly it's about TV episodes. I'm Josh, and joining me on this evil journey is Skinner. Hey, Skinner.
Hey! You spoiled it. It's in the title of the show anyways, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in the title of the show. There's another spoiler that's also contained in the title of this episode, and it is that we are not alone on this episode. For the previous 9 episodes, it's just been you and me, just been shooting the shit about weird old TV shows, and we thought for our 10th episode, moving into the double digits, it would be nice to bring a pal of ours along and let them choose the episode that we're going to talk about on this episode of the podcast. And we thought of no better person to bring along with us than the co-host of Let's Get Weirding, your favorite Dune podcast. It's Beau North.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, the heat
greetings.
of the summertime is being dampened down by this Christmas episode that we're going to discuss.
Sleasons, greetings.
Yeah, I mean, it combines two of my favorite things, which is holiday shit and weed memes. So
I feel like there's the point in this episode of this show. The show is called Evil. We'll get into it. Where I think they didn't tell the actress playing Kristen what the video was going to be, because her description of it is completely wrong.
We'll get there. First, just to let everybody know, we are talking about Evil Season 1, Episode 10, I believe.
Is this the most current show we've ever done on this show?
No, we did the Pentaveret last episode.
No, that happened. No, you don't understand. The Pentaveret happened 15 years ago. No one remembers it. Beau, do you remember the Pentaveret?
I don't even know what that is, dude.
Exactly.
That's the Mike Myers show.
Nope.
With the joke, you remember the joke from So I Married an Axe Murderer, where his dad character talks about how the world is run by the Pentaveret? They made that into a show.
Oh, sure.
But yes,
it's not good.
No, it's not. We're talking about Seven Swans a Singing from December 2019. And Beau, you were the one who brought this to us. You said,
yes.
Hey, let's cut. We said, we want you on the show. You pick the show that we're going to talk about. You pick the episode. I think we went in assuming that you would pick Supernatural. But we can always.
It was a close call, yeah.
We will always have you back to talk about Supernatural, so it can still happen. But you chose Evil, so maybe walk us through why you chose this show in particular, and then maybe why this specific episode.
Yeah. So Evil, for those of you who don't know, it's by Michelle and Robert King, who made the show The Good Wife. So, it's just like The Good Wife. No, it's it's this very strange show that at first you think maybe it's trying to be like a straightforward sort of Exorcist type, maybe a Twin Peaks type show. And it does sort of lean really heavily into a lot of the Twin Peaks tropes, but like in a way, in like the silly end of the spectrum, because the show is like, it turned into like, I don't know, it sort of morphed into something that was like weird and creepy, but also like incredibly silly and weirdly sexy at times. And like, it's just this is by far not the weirdest episode of Evil, but it's my favorite of all the weirdest episodes of Evil. Yeah.
When I saw that after season 1, it was no longer on network television, but instead on Paramount Plus, I was like, yeah, I can get that. I
mean, that's so they can show a lot more skin and say a lot more curse words, and they do.
Oh, interesting.
Good. Yeah.
We're going to bleep out every curse word we have in this episode.
I was curious, like, so one, you brought up the whole network change. Like, obviously, it's now on Paramount Plus. I'm not sure when it moved. I guess maybe season 2 it moved, because it has 3 seasons, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, CBS it was the CBS All Access, and then it became
that's
Paramount
right.
Plus.
But was it ever on like CBS proper, like on the network?
You know, I don't think so. I think it was always streaming.
Interesting, because I was gonna say, like, this is a kind of a bold show for what we sort of you naturally think about with CBS. I was like, oh, am I not giving CBS enough credit? Like, I think of them as the CSI network or the NCIS network or anything like that. But are they actually branching out and doing interesting stuff? And it's like, well, maybe not. This is maybe just for streaming. But I think maybe the first season was on CBS proper, but who knows? I
only ever watched it streaming, so I couldn't say.
Is this episode, like, the way this episode works, like, I kind of, when you mentioned it being one of your favorite of the sort of slightly sillier episodes that they do, I was wondering if it's kind of that same vibe that, like, the X-Files would have, where they would have these kind of out of character episodes, but usually became fan favorites, or
no, actually, let me walk that back, because every episode it's not just like a straightforward like paranormal investigation, Catholic nonsense show.
Sure,
it is a little bit of everything. It's a little bit scary, it's a little bit goofy, it's a little bit stupid. It's got a lot of, every single episode has something in it that happens that is funny, that is weird. It's just, as a show, it's sort of hard to pin down into a genre. It's kind of all over the place, but in a way that really, really works.
Sure.
And it has Michael Emerson on it, so I figured that's pretty much
he's
a Beau thing.
He's a serious regular, and now he has a nemesis on the show who you would think would be like Mike Coulter, who in this episode is a priest in training. He's now on the show. He's now a priest. Or maybe the head priest might be his nemesis. No, it's little Andrea Martin, little nun. She's a little feisty nun, and she is his nemesis, and it's very good.
So let's kind of go through the episode here and kind of talk about it, and you can kind of maybe fill us in on some things that we don't know. We've been chatting a little bit about it in offline before we started recording, and I think that Skinner is kind of in the same boat that I am, that, like, Kristen seems like the main character, even though I know that, David, played by Mike Coulter, is also like a kind of co-lead sort of thing, and then Ben is there as well. The kind of skeptical tech guy, but yeah, she really does seem like the sort of the main focus. But I know nothing about the show. That is our only disadvantage, especially with something like this, where there is a lot of seemingly serialized stuff happening, and backstory.
Yeah, like I mentioned to you, every time David stuff came on, I couldn't give a fuck, because I'm never, like, I like this episode. I never watch TV besides for the show. I'm never gonna watch this again. So, like, anytime he's like, oh, he had an affair with somebody, fast forward 10 seconds, back to Kristen. So,
yeah, that stuff isn't as exciting. It doesn't really go anywhere that's particularly exciting or fun. That whole, like, oh, David had an affair thing.
I mean, is his ghost girlfriend leaving him all these notes? Is that what we're supposed to believe?
I'm trying to remember. That's how forgettable that whole plot arc was.
I mean, it had no singing in those parts, so that was
right.
That was also a downfall of it. It did end with a knife fight, so that was something.
I'm very much looking forward to how much Pudsy's Christmas is going to get stuck in both of your heads.
Okay,
because believe you me, it's going to happen.
So I think I'm okay, because right now I cannot even remember the melody. So I think that my brain is damaged enough.
I'm gonna be singing it. Don't you worry.
Santa got high, now everything is funny. Someone had a gummy, he thought he might try. His mouth is so dry, his teeth are kind of itchy. How'd he ever get so high?
So they get brought into I guess this is a thing that they do. They're like a kind of an investigative team that sort of, I did the barest amount of research where they sort of try to determine if things are actually sort of spiritual or supernatural in nature, or if they're just like insanity, or as Ben purports in this episode, maybe a pesticide issue.
Right. Mostly what the team's job is is to debunk things that are brought to the church as like, oh, there's this, they're trying to say this was a miracle or this person's possessed. And, sometimes it ends up having like a more spiritual angle, but a lot of times they're just there to debunk it. Although even the things that get debunked, there is sort of a weird supernatural angle to most things on this show.
I think, this one we have end up being a very specific solution to it that isn't supernatural, but you could say that it's supernatural in that someone would want it to happen.
Right.
And there's really
just
pleasant Christmas tree.
Right. So just a bit of backstory for, you guys coming into this without having seen any of the show before. They're sort of investigating all of this stuff. And meanwhile, Leland Townsend, who is Michael Emerson's character, is very much working against them, like very openly, but in a way that sort of like he's ingratiating himself with the church and inserting himself into all of these situations, but is very like openly working against Kristen and David and Ben.
Is there a reason for that? Do we find that out? I'm guessing
he
later
is
in
a
the show
demon.
he doesn't like them. Oh, he's a demon.
He is a demon. I mean, I'm assuming there's reference made to it once that he is a demon, or at least is possessed by a demon. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, in the show that we watched, it seems like he likes to put people in bags and then wants teens to kill themselves, which I don't know. Have you seen teens lately? He's not wrong. But no, I'm sorry.
How dare you? Skinner has a teen.
She's the world's greatest teenager.
That's true. She is above all other teens. We know this. She got an award. So they go to this Catholic school where Peter Scolari is a priest.
He's sort of their boss off and on. There's two priests that kind of come in and out as like the one they report to, and obviously after he passed away, the guy that was their boss before him came back. So
it was nice to see him. My main exposure to Peter Scolari is not he was in Bosom Buddies, right? Like that was this big claim to fame when he first got started with Tom Hanks. The big thing that I know him from is from the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids TV show. He was Wayne Zielinski on that show.
We have to cover that show at some point, don't we?
Yeah, I think we do. It was. I don't think it was a good show. Not that I remember, but
as opposed to all the other great shows like the Pentaveret that we've covered.
I mean, let me just put this out there: Honey, I Shrunk the Kids TV show got to 66 episodes.
That's way more than Pentaveret had. There's a sequence in the episode on Pentaveret that has Jennifer Saunders doing the most unfunny thing joke bit I have ever seen in my life.
That's
on
sad.
Anything. He wrote Jennifer Saunders of all people to do the worst bit.
Like one of the funniest people alive. Yeah.
I will say that Evil is a much better show than the Pentaveret. We'll just we can make that blanket statement. I think that everyone would agree with. So they get called into the school to deal with this issue, and the issue is that these girls are humming a song. And they can't seem to stop. It just keeps playing.
Well, they can stop.
Well, they can, but they immediately feel the need to restart as soon as possible. And they don't know the words. But they have
la la la.
There's this humming, and then they try, even when they try to sing another song, like she asked them to sing Jingle Bells, they immediately start forming it into the melody that they were humming earlier, which is kind of interesting. I was like, that's an interesting take on Jingle Bells. I'd like to see a fully like produced version of the song with that melody, which I'm sure fans of the show have probably done. I'm sure that there's someone out there who's done something with this song. And so naturally, Kristen, who is she's like a therapist or something, or a psychologist, something like that.
She is a psychologist, yes.
Okay, so she thinks that it might be like a stuck song syndrome, or like kind of a form of OCD that they can't quite get it out of their head. So she, tries a couple different things. I think she settles on giving them gum, which somehow helps them avoid dealing with this song.
As a distraction.
Yeah. When in doubt, it's always an oral fixation. It's whatever
with
helps
this
you.
Show? Yeah.
Whatever helps you stop smoking will also help you do anything.
I mean, yeah. Can these girls hum the song and chew gum and walk at the same time?
I love that they can stop, and they just give the most straight pan face, looking at, yeah, we stopped, and then they start again.
Yeah, immediately want to start again. And then we get up to this point, I'm like, all right, I'm on board. I know, I can kind of follow what's happening here. I'm not lost or anything. I sort of get it. I don't know who all these characters are, but I kind of get what is going on. And then we get this scene of a little girl who we'll later learn is one of Kristen's daughters. They have 4 kids, is that right?
Yeah, they have 4 daughters, all with L names. And this Lexus is special because she was
luxury car.
Well, there's that. But she was also conceived through IVF through this place that happens to be making evil demon babies.
Oh.
That's an arc of the show.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Well, that's a really good way to just mess with people who watch this show deprived of sleep and are kind of, worried about their child who was born out of a way that's not standard, but it's technically also exactly the same way chemistry wise of making a child.
Yeah,
sure.
A valid birth, but still concerned. Is my child a demon baby? They won't go to sleep and they won't eat. They must be the spawn of Satan.
Well, that's true of all kids. All babies.
Sure. And I think that's the shorthand here. Just as the getting the song stuck in their heads is sort of shorthand for Christmas music and how, it's everywhere. You can't escape it.
Yeah.
And
by the
that
way,
time of year.
everything Kristen brings up as far as old mass hysteria things, which sound, if you say it happened in X year in Tanzania, it just sounds like you're making it up because you can do that.
In 1539, there was a dancing plague. Sure.
Yeah. No, there
Sure.
was. Absolutely. I Wikipedia'd it. Those things, they as well Wikipedia'd it. They just basically stole it straight from the mass hysteria page. That's the first 2 things on the mass hysteria history page on Wikipedia are the 2 things she brings up.
That's the rule, though. When you're trying to pull something from Wikipedia, you gotta go down the list a little bit and find a slightly more obscure thing, so they think that you did some research.
The dancing one's the funniest one, though. It's the funniest. It's they were all stressed from being serfs, and they danced until they died.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're all headed there, right? We're all gonna do that eventually. So this scene, I was like, okay, I don't know who this kid is. I thought maybe she was one of the kids that they were talking to earlier, but I was like, no, she's a little girl. And she's very upset, and there's a woman in the kitchen who is dressed like she's about to go to the club. And
this is Grandma.
Hot granny here who goes out to check on her, and the little girl says she got pushed down and she scraped her knee, and there's another a girl who's kind of a bully to her. And then Grandma here, this is Cheryl, right? Isn't that her?
Yes, Cheryl. Played by Christine Lottie.
Yeah, Wikipedia describes her as Kristen's supportive, hard-living mother.
That doesn't sound, from reading the other episode synopsises, that doesn't sound like it really encompasses everything about her.
No. She's easily, I would say, the weirdest part of this very weird show.
So
she is Cheryl, yes.
Yeah, she gives the child the advice that, you gotta beat this bully up. She gives her the advice that all 80s movies gave their audiences, which is just beat up the audience, or beat up the audience.
Yeah.
When you're do that when you're in the theater.
That's what Star Wars needs to do.
She says you got to beat up the bully, which works just like in an 80s movie. This girl takes her advice and she puts a rock in her hand, like her grandmother tells her to do, and smashes this girl in the face, and somehow doesn't break her nose. And also that's a thing that happens in the recent season of Stranger Things.
Stranger Things, yeah.
The girl
That was
hits a girl
brutal.
in the face with a skate.
With a roller skate.
Yeah.
Thankfully not a nice skate, but yeah.
I once hit my brother in the head with the head of a Cabbage Patch Kid, which are very hard.
Oh, yeah. Those little faces.
Yeah, I snuck attack him. Whomp. He's not happy.
I think someone attacking someone with an ice skate is like a Tanya Harding move.
Oh, for sure.
I'm sure it happens back
Or
home.
Nancy Kerrigan, whichever one.
I'm pretty sure that happened on Buffy. Yeah, I'm pretty
Oh, yeah,
sure.
it did.
I'm pretty sure it did.
She
yeah.
decapitated a vamp with her ice skate.
Yeah, and then they made out on the rink.
On the ice. Yeah, of course.
But yeah, so she tells her this advice, and it seems not good. And it also, I was like, is Hot Granny here the devil or something? Because she's wearing this red dress, and she's like, seems very,
she's devilish. I
what
would
was
say
that
she's
song from half a year ago with the red dress, Josh?
Oh my God! It was just called Red Dress. That really awful.
Oh yeah,
that awful.
Speaking of awful songs getting stuck in your head,
I remember that.
Rebecca. No, it wasn't Rebecca. It was. Oh God, what was it? It was something. It was like. Oh, gosh, I do remember it, and I'm sure I could find it, and I'll just put an audio clip of that song into this episode. Sarah Brand, that's what it is. Yeah, Sarah Brand. That is.
Did you ever figure out if there was a psychological test on people?
I mean, it is very. It is very appropriate for this episode with all of its church imagery in that music video. So
yeah.
Yeah, so maybe grandma is grown up Sarah Brand here.
See me in a red dress, hopping on the deathbed, thinking of lust as they judge and discuss. What are you doing here? See me in a red dress, hopping on the deathbed, thinking of lust as I judge and discuss. What am I doing here? Letting someone else do.
We get a scene with Kristen and her husband, and
Andy.
Andy.
Very boring Andy.
He likes to climb.
He likes to climb.
They run a professional like mountain climbing business.
Oh,
He's
I missed that.
Yeah, he's basically gone most of the show because he's out like, helping people climb. He's sort of acts as a guide, a coach. He trains people in climbing.
Go up.
She's actually a world champion climber. She's climbed Everest several times. She's
okay.
Yeah.
Does that come up in the story at all? Does she ever have to climb things to beat demons or something?
She does use a climbing axe to do something very naughty.
Oh. All right.
Which I won't spoil, but she
Write in what you think that is, by the way. I want to see what people come up with.
Yeah, because my mind went a very specific place, but I was like, you wouldn't do that
not
with a
that kind
axe.
of naughty. She kills somebody with it. I'll just say that. She puts it through somebody's
because they can't stop hearing a voice.
No, they're just bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they have this conversation where she's trying to hum along to this song, and the husband seems to know it too.
Mm-hmm.
And their daughter knows it. Oh, and fun fact, I'm pretty sure that we printed the wallpaper at my job in their bedroom.
Nice.
Yeah.
I wondered.
Yeah, I looked for other stuff. I unfortunately, my day job is doing a lot of stuff for television and film productions, and we print a lot of wallpaper and murals and things. And so there's always basically any show that's probably shot in LA, we've probably printed stuff for. So I catch one thing and I'm like, oh yeah, we did that. And then I start looking around the rest of the show did we do that? I don't know. I can't tell, but I'm pretty sure we did that one because that pattern looks very familiar. But anyway, their daughter seems to know what this song is. It's Pudsy's Christmas.
Yes.
And her daughter throws some shade at her for not knowing how to use the internet and to not knowing how to Google things.
Fair enough, though.
I mean, it is true. You know, if you you hear a thing and you're like, "What is that?" Well, figure it out, lady.
Just get Shazam.
Yeah. I'm surprised nobody did that. Like, why didn't they just pull the Shazam app out and try to listen to them humming along and see if they could figure it out?
I don't know if Shazam knows YouTube videos.
Well, fair.
That's true.
So she goes to look it up, and it's a little animated video about Santa accidentally eating a gummy edible, I guess, and getting real high.
Yes.
And yeah, so when discussing it afterwards, Kristen calls it to it's David or Ben that it's just like the Peanuts Christmas except for edgier.
No, it isn't.
Not even remote. Like it's nothing like
nothing like that.
So I think at some point that's what it was in pre-production, but the final product was nothing like that because you probably couldn't. I thought maybe CBS like. You know, we used to have the rights to that show before Apple took it. We could probably do a weed parody of it. And they were like, no, you can't.
I mean, yeah, what would that have looked like if it were the
It's just it's just Snoopy's brother Spike just fucking wasted.
You know it.
Is Spike the one with that little mustache?
Yes.
Yeah,
the little dirtbag mustache.
He's a little dirtbag.
Yeah,
that's exactly who it would be. You're totally right. But yeah, it's this little, you know, flash animated kind of little thing with Santa blazed out of his mind, and the song is playing along.
Zooted.
Within the whole thing, and the song is, you know, I guess it's sort of catchy. Although for the life of me, right now, I cannot remember the melody.
Because you're over 16.
That's true. It doesn't affect me. I'll put it into here so you can hear it. Maybe I'll just lay it under the entire episode.
Ho, 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 just a taste of a yummy gummy. Ho, 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 yum, yum in my rummy tummy. Ho, 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 gum, gum, tummy, funny gummy. Oh, God, everybody knows.
But we don't want anyone sticking anything in their ears.
No, that's
don't
true.
Do that.
I don't want to do that to my listeners. They were already doing that on the Pentaveret episode. So
just make it stop.
But yeah, the next day back at the school, everyone in this particular class is now harmonizing this song. They can't stop. It's a music class, and they can't seem to stop. And that's when we get the opening credits, like 15 minutes into the show.
They do this all the time.
I was like, wait a minute, these are the opening credits?
They just put them wherever. Sometimes it comes at the end of the show.
I just imagine like olds in 1980s watching CBS and be like, what show am I? Oh,
I mean, I feel that way sometimes, and I've been watching this show since day one.
I was going to bring that up, but like a lot of the shows that we've covered so far in this run of Center of Weirdness have very much let you know. They've been from the era where they very much let you know what the fuck this show is in the credits. Like either it's a song or someone just spoken wording over the opening saying, here's what this show is about. And in this one, we just get a bunch of milk with some Catholic iconography, and I don't know what this is about.
Yep.
I think that still the peak for the entire of openings for the shows we've covered is still the Teddy Ruxpin cartoon.
Yeah.
That song is a banger, and it tells the entire plot of the show.
That's right. I mean, I think that they could have used an evil theme song, like, you know, a rap or something.
An evil
They
rap.
have since zhuzhed up the credits a little bit going into season 3. So they're a little more, and there's like an actual song playing. No lyrics, sadly, but
we'll get Machine Gun Kelly to put someone in there.
Yeah, they have changed it up a bit for season 3,
I like the opening credits. They were kind of Hannibal-esque a little bit, and I loved the opening credits of that show. But yeah, it was just very startling to me because I paused it and I was like, how far into this episode are we? So this is when, you know, Kristen brings up that it could be a plague of some kind or like a kind of mass hysteria type thing. And then she does, you know, run through Wikipedia and tell us other times that it supposedly happened throughout history. we find out that as I previously mentioned, Lexus did hit a girl with a rock. And she
got
says,
in big trouble.
She says, "Hey, Grandma told me to do this," and then Grandma is like, "No, I didn't." She's a liar.
What a terrible
Keep
life.
in mind that up until this episode, so I think this is what, episode 10?
Yeah, I believe so.
All the previous 9 episodes, you have no inclination that there is something off about Grandma. Like,
Oh.
none at all. Like, they played Cheryl completely straight. She did start dating Michael Emerson's character Leland, which Kristen was not happy about because she knows that Leland is bad news. However, they never let on that Cheryl herself was probably, in this mix in this way until this episode. So this is the first time that the audience is like, oh, there's actually something not okay with her.
Oh, interesting.
It is upsetting to watch somebody's grandma give them like bad advice when they're very, very sad like she is, but she has this legitimate little kid problem of being picked on. But also, you don't have to listen to your grandma. If your grandma tells you to murder somebody, you can say, like, "No, grandma, I'm not going to do that."
No,
like a kid Lexus's age, she would know that. No, I don't have to hit another kid with a rock in the face.
Right.
Fox News says they're coming for our job, so you got to kill them. No, Grandma, you're wrong.
If it was my grandma, that would be what she would say.
Well,
Your grandma's story is much more confusing than anything in the show.
That's true. That's true.
For a second, like in that first scene with her and Lexus, I was like, is this woman not real? Like, is she a ghost or something? Because there was nobody else around.
You always go to that, though.
Well, I was curious because she's dressed very interestingly, and I was like, is she a ghost or something?
Is she
or
a sexy ghost?
Yeah, sexy ghost. Or is she she's the ghost that gave Dan Aykroyd a blowjob in Ghostbusters?
She's the ghost with the most.
No, she's just Cheryl. She has a little ventriloquist dummy that she worships.
What?
It's all good.
And she's supportive and hard
Eddie.
living.
Yeah, it's all good.
There's an evil
She's got a
ventriloquist
little-
dummy?
Oh yeah, she's got a little demon that lives on her bedpost. It's cool.
Right
It's
now,
totally cool.
Josh's goosebumps are going up.
I mean, I will say, I don't want to spoil my my feelings for the show, but I mean, it intrigued me enough that I'm like, I might need to watch another episode or two of this, like just to see where they
I
go with
highly
it and where they
recommend it.
came from.
Where did you come from? Where did you go?
Speaking of songs stuck in your head and probably carrying evil messages.
See, that song's
Right.
going to stick with me forever, unfortunately.
It played 4 times at my senior prom.
I think mine too. So it was 96. What are we?
96
gonna
was a
do?
great year, except for it was
Yeah.
a terrible
we
year.
we loved Swedish redneck band Rednecks for some reason. It's amazing that they made that work. So
Did they, though?
I mean, we're still talking about it, so I think they did. She says that she didn't do it. Grandma didn't have anything to do with that. We get a
Real
subplot
Bart
here.
Simpson.
We get a subplot here with David and his sister's his fiance's sister. His sister's fiance. And I guess they had sex or something in the previous episode.
Yeah.
We got a little previously on bit where he met her and she said she would not leave until he touched her. I was like, okay, well, interesting.
Hot.
And so he found a note on his car that I guess earlier too, we missed this, but he goes to confession and says that he, slept with the sister of his fiance, and he kind of keeps seeing this guy like watching him, following him around. He also finds a heart with a little arrow drawn through it in the condensation, but it's inside his car, so that means that someone inside did it. He also finds that arrow drawn on a little note. on his pillow. He believes that Renee, this other woman, left it. He goes, talks to her about it, but she said it wasn't her, and it's a whole thing. I don't really know what is going on there. Obviously, and you said it, Beau, that it doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, it's really not that important.
But I'm just assuming it's his dead fiance doing all this. So I'm just gonna leave it there, and I'm gonna let my brain believe that's what it is. So the Asif Manvi, who plays Ben, Mr. Daily Show, he is kind of like their tech guy, and he doesn't seem to believe in a lot of the stuff that's happening.
Yeah,
But
he's the actual like skeptic. David's the believer. Kristen is kind of on. She sort of could go either way, and Ben is the skeptic.
Yeah.
If it's not on the blockchain, he doesn't believe in it.
He would never.
Never.
He would never.
I mean,
he's not a crypto
yes,
bro.
It says that he's a technical expert, and I think technical experts stayed away from Bitcoin.
He's actually a scientist. He was a researcher, a medical researcher. He's a doctor that had left his profession for reasons.
And he's an audiophile.
Yes.
That's right. He knows about the secret frequencies.
Yes.
So he tells them that he believes that it might be pesticides on the vegetables that is affecting the children, because the company that the Catholic school uses apparently has a whole bunch of lawsuits against it for putting pesticides and whatnot in their vegetables.
I just want to ask if you caught the moment when he presents this theory and the priest is kind of like, shh.
Yes, I did notice that. He's like, not so loud, not so loud.
Very much in line with my idea of how the Catholic Church works.
It's very much a Springfield Elementary thing of like, don't show the horse parts barrel that we're making the lunches out of.
Right.
So they think that's what it is, but then of course we have to accelerate things because several girls in the cafeteria start stabbing themselves in the ears with pencils and scissors and forks and all kinds of gruesome things. And I was very shocked here where Kristen and David and the like run over and then just start ripping these things out of their ears. Like, that seems maybe like worse. Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty intense there for a second.
It's just very, very extreme there, what they're doing.
There's usually something very gnarly, like some kind of body horror in every episode.
Yeah, it just seemed like, maybe let a medical person take that thing out. Like, I don't know. Seems very bad.
Right.
But so they question the girls who'd stabbed themselves, and they kind of tell them that, they don't eat the vegetables at school. They only eat the fries because everything else is bad, which makes sense. So they find in their search history that they don't know anything about Pudsy's Christmas or whatever, but they have been visiting a makeup blogger's page quite frequently. Melinda's.
An influencer.
Yes, an influencer. I guess she would be a macro influencer since she was a micro influencer before.
Sure.
And they find this woman, Melendez, or I guess that's how you say that. And she has this 90-minute video where I guess ostensibly she's just putting on makeup for 90 minutes, but she says that if you make it to the end, you have to say Melendez's challenge 3 times, and then you'll go insane. Or
you're really underselling how bad this video is.
It's bad.
It's pretty bad, even for like a fake YouTuber.
Yes,
it's pretty bad.
Like
it's not even like ASMR or anything. It's just.
No. It's her making cartoon faces and going, woo! Like it is a parody of it, but it's so out of tone with everything this show is that I loved it. Like, they could not have gotten influencers more wrong, and like they are crazy and annoying, stressing on annoying, and they do stupid video stuff and stupid thumbnails, but somehow this was completely unlike what they do.
It's like if they took the thumbnail and actually made the
They put in
video.
and it's too and its production, it's a little too slick, too sharp looking, but because it is so completely bad and completely out of tone with the show, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's very good.
And
they do this shit all the time on this show.
So they can hear the tune to Pudsy's Christmas playing underneath the audio of her talking, so they know, okay, this is where the song got out into the world and started infecting these people, and they kind of want to know what's going on. They each watch the video, they do the challenge, and nothing happens to them.
I'm sorry, but I laughed so much at the three of them each doing like Melinda's challenge, Melinda's challenge, and then all three of them separately being like, I sound like an idiot.
Yes. Because they do. It's true.
It's very good.
It feels like this feels kind of like one of those things that would have popped up in the very early days of YouTube. Like, what was that viral series? It was like this
Sassy
woman.
Gay Friend.
What's that?
Sassy Gay Friend.
No, it was
Kelly.
like a mystery series. Like, they thought it was real, but it was this woman who was doing it wasn't, I don't want to say it was like a cam girl thing, because that's not what it was, but it was like a very early
Two girls and
no,
one.
it was not that. It was like it was this like this woman who was like recording all this
Some
stuff
original
about her
creepypasta.
about her life, yeah, and then it was like a whole thing where she went missing or something. And it feels very much like that, like this thing where you're supposed to watch this video and like figure out what's going on, and then it turns out it's like nothing, but at least not for us, but that's gonna drive me crazy. It's like the sword store that I couldn't remember.
I like that it still stayed that episode.
sword
It still was
store.
like 10 minutes of you talking about it, but we cut out like 15 more extra minutes of you talking about it, trying to figure it out.
Yeah, no, I'll never. And right now, if you ask me, I couldn't remember what it was, but it was. There was some weird sword store. But yeah, so it's kind of that sort of thing of like setting this thing up. Is you're gonna watch it and then you're gonna lose your mind or something like that, and it's all just a bunch of bullshit. But as she's listening, as Kristen's listening to it, her daughters can hear it. And they're
Yeah.
able to hear something that she can't hear. So they
Hear a man who is not their dad.
Yes, exactly. They hear a man's voice, but I guess you don't have to. I guess it wasn't about watching the video; it's just about hearing it, basically. So they hear.
She's pretty stupid to have done this in their hearing range, considering she had a pretty good idea.
Yes. Put some headphones on or something. Like, don't let them hear it. Like, you don't want them to know, because she even asks her daughter, like, hey, have you ever heard of this makeup thing? She's like, well, no, you told me I wasn't allowed to do that yet. And she's like, all right, good. So you're not exposed, and you won't die. And even though they had been humming that song earlier because someone else taught it to them, but because someone else taught it to them, there wasn't the hidden message in there, so they weren't exposed to the bad part of the message. And
to be fair, this is before the pandemic, where even middle-aged people had to learn that you should wear headphones when using a computer.
yes,
So not everyone can hear your shit. In your house.
I found it, by the way. It was Lonely Girl 15.
That's
No.
what Beau said.
Yeah, did you say that?
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to make him feel like shit, Beau.
That's okay.
But yeah, it was a big viral video thing, and I always feel like shit, so it's fine. So
This is what it's like when we're together too, by the way.
yeah, it is.
It is kind of.
So they another thing happens with David. He starts getting a bunch of photos from some service called WePoke,
Yeah.
It's very funny.
Nintendo Wii Poke.
Like I get it, you know, you
Who
can't
poke, we
use AirDrop or whatever, but I feel like they could have come up with a better name than Wii Poke.
I don't know,
it's
though.
pretty
Could
funny.
they? Wii Poke is pretty good.
Yeah,
I think this show knows how goofy
Sure.
it is and truly like leans in
Did
to every opportunity to be more ridiculous than it has to be.
Did anyone notice what search engine she used when she was searching for this video? Was it like search.com or
Something like
go
that.
find it gofindit.com? So he starts getting all these photos of him with Renee. I like that WePoke lets you know that this person who's sending it is within 50 feet of you.
Yeah. Well, I guess since they can't say airdrop, they have to be like, hint, hint, it's someone nearby.
Yeah, and so he goes running around looking for someone. He sees someone outside. He goes out after them, but they're not there. He keeps getting all these photos of this person who apparently was just watching them through a window while they were getting down. And then he gets a call from Renee, who's also receiving these photos, and she thinks it's him, and nobody knows what's going on, and we still don't by the end of the episode. Although maybe it was the knife man who's doing it. I don't know. Maybe he's also a good photographer. He likes big knives and also shooting photos of people through their bedroom windows.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If you're a priest in training and you're about to get down, maybe get curtains, pull some curtains or the blinds or whatever. I know you live in an old church tower like any, priest in training does, but...
Yeah, get some blackout curtains or something.
Maybe throw a sheet over the window or something.
Yeah.
One of your sweaters should do.
If
you're Mike Coulter.
Okay, is he a sweater guy in this show? Because
he is.
I thought that was like a fun little joke because he's mostly wearing sweaters and then they give him a sweater for Christmas.
He's basically like the Black Colin Firth.
Okay.
Yeah. Just
I
really
like,
handsome and really fills out a sweater.
Yeah, I like Mike Coulter. I liked that Luke Cage show he was in, and but I think that it's cool that he's getting to do some more work.
He's great in this show. It's very goofy.
Yeah.
He gets to, there's quite a few scenes where he gets to be on drugs that are pretty fun.
So. This is when the situation starts to get worse. Kristen's kids start stabbing their ears, or at least one of them does. And now they're very concerned. And this is when Ben reveals that there is something hidden in the audio. There's a 1700 hertz or a 17,000 hertz frequency that only teenagers under 16 can hear. I don't know if this is a real thing, but
by the way,
it is a real thing.
It is a real thing. So, my daughter's birthday party, we were lighting the birthday candles on her cake, and because it's the future, it's the 2021.
You had to do it with an app or something.
I did it with my plasma lighter. I'm not using a fucking match in 2021. I have a plasma lighter. I can recharge with a USB cord.
I have one of those.
Yeah, and I
set it blood?
Off. Yes. And I set it off, and all of a sudden the girls are like, what is that sound? And my wife and I are like, well, it's just a little buzz sound. They're like, no, that whistling. I'm like, what? And I hit it again. They're like, There's absolutely no sound for us adults at all. Every time I hit it, it caused them pain. So I kept doing it.
Evil.
Yeah, you're evil. I wonder if that's the same sort of thing that, like, there are certain department stores that I would go into as a kid, and I would hear this like high pitched whine, and I wonder if that's like kind of the same thing. Like there's something about the electronics in the store. It happened specifically in Sears. And
Sears, that Sears sound.
Yeah, that hot Sears sound. Hey, this is your cousin, Marvin Sears. Here's that hot sound you've been looking for. But like, I wonder if that's kind of the same thing. Like the electronics all sort of humming at the same frequency that creates this weird like high pitched noise. I don't know. we're learning all kinds of new stuff here today. We're learning about frequencies. We're learning that Skinner is a monster who likes to torture children.
I don't want them to come over that often.
Yeah, we can't go to we can't go to Skinner's place. It's really it sounds weird when I go over there.
Yeah. But it's actually called high frequency hearing loss because when you get older, your cells like naturally break down and you lose the ability to hear above a certain frequency.
Not me. I'm super young all the time. I'll always be able to hear those sounds.
Wait till you get night blindness.
Yeah.
I was going for, I mean, listen to this episode. I was going for a razor, but I didn't get there.
So you only have safety scissors because you're a little kid.
That's right. So we find out that this frequency that only the teens can hear is a man's distorted voice telling them, repeating the phrase "across for attention, down for results," which is a reference to cutting their wrists.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a very heavy topic, so sorry for that. Maybe put a content warning at the beginning of this one. But then Kristen's daughter, who stabbed herself in the ear, also mentions that she heard a voice asking if she wanted to be part of an army to fight people. So I'm like wondering if there's other messages that we didn't hear. I'm surprised they didn't have a recording of that message.
Or the one that says grab scissors and stab your ear.
Yeah.
Because that's what they all do. They don't do the other thing.
Yeah, they don't.
Great. I don't want them to. But
Well, they said they just wanted the noise to stop.
Yeah.
So do I.
That's something that we have in common with the teens. Just stop the noise, please. So they finally go to Melendez's home. They find her there, and they tell her that she needs to take down the video, and they kind of explain what's going on. And she's kind of freaked out, but she goes to see her therapist, who, surprise, surprise, is Michael Emerson.
Yes.
And she intimates, she tells the crew investigating that it was a producer named Mike who gave her the track to put under her video.
There,
but it turns out that she was kind of making that up, and it was Michael Emerson's character. He's Leland, is that right?
Yes, Leland.
So, and then he kind of was like, "Oh, are you threatening me?" Saying that I did this and whatnot. He basically reminds her that she was kind of a nobody. She had 2,000 followers or something. Was a micro influencer when
I wish I had 2,000 followers.
Yeah, really. I'd love to be a micro influencer. I could do all kinds of micro things, micro dosing, microdermabrasion, anything that you would want me to endorse, I'll do it.
Micro machines.
Yeah.
I mean, I already do most of those things already, so.
But basically he tells her this little parable about how someone, the French king wanted people to eat potatoes, and the peasants didn't want to do it, so he built a private garden with a bunch of potatoes in it, and the peasants, who were mad about that, broke in, stole all the potatoes, and then loved them, and so that's why potatoes became...
This episode was we Wikipedia'd 1400 AD.
Yeah,
CE.
There was some
France
dancing
never
fever
had
and some
problems
potatoes.
Ever again after that. Everything was fixed.
Yeah. And so he basically says that by taking the video down, like they want her to do, she will actually make it more popular and more people will want to find it. And of course, that is what happens in her apology, where she basically just says "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to take this down. I would never want you to download it and share it with a bunch of people. So definitely don't do that. Wink, wink.
I'm taking it down at the end of the day.
Yeah. So there's plenty of time for you to do what you need to do. And, of course, they say, oh, this will be everywhere by tomorrow. Does that ever come back? Does this ever come back at all?
The video and the influencer does come back.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
In a later episode, yes.
All right, cool. So that's fun. I was kind of wondering if it was just one of those random things where oh, well, there's a bunch of kids out there committing suicide now, and we're never going to touch on it again.
They do reference it. I'm not going to say they spend a lot of time on it, but it is referenced in a
Okay,
later episode.
that's cool.
Yeah.
So David finally goes back to finish up a confession. He regretted to inform the priest at that time that he was in his third year of seminary. And the guy was like, well, if you avoid these temptating situations, then you'll be okay. Do your Hail Marys and whatnot, and you'll be fine. So he goes out to the manger scene again, which is what he did previously, and suddenly there's a man with a big knife there who attacks him and stabs him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's able to fight off this guy and stares into the eyes of knocked over baby Jesus as his phone rings and the show ends. So,
Yes.
we're left to wonder what's going to happen there. I'm assuming he's fine because it seems like he's in every episode. So I think it's probably
he does
okay.
recover. He's not fine, but he does recover.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I enjoyed this episode. It was never boring, unlike some of the shows we've watched.
There's a lot going on in this episode.
Yeah, it keeps
There's
moving.
about 10 different plots happening all at once.
And while I don't understand all of them, I think that it's still a pretty compelling show. Like it's fun, it moves, it looks good. Like, it's a fun one. I think I'm very curious to potentially watch a couple other episodes because I know there's like a big weird goat demon man in an episode or two at some point. I want to see that guy.
There's more than one, yeah.
I'm like curious about that guy and but yeah, I mean I think it's a pretty fun show.
I think you'd enjoy it.
I like the little white Christmas tree that Townsend has in his little office. It's very classy. It's very understated, but it's got a nice soft glow. I appreciate the balls in this show for calling itself evil.
Yeah.
But like not E period V period I period L period or E period Ville, like someone in the show is named Eric Ville.
Or they live in Evil.
Like the search engine optimization for evil is very, very bad. So
I have to look
I
for.
imagine the pitch on this would be very, very difficult. Like we're gonna call our show evil. Evil what? No, just the word evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I look up evil show, what are you gonna find?
I did this earlier. You have to put CBS in there.
Oh, okay.
Evil TV series 2019 helps.
Yeah, kind of. Amend that search, massage it.
But yeah, that takes a lot of guts to be like, we're gonna be the TV show that's called evil.
Yeah, and I'm also
One word.
surprised that like there isn't a show in the more recent past that's already been called that. Like it feels like that's a show title that any number of shows could have grabbed at some point.
Hell yeah.
Does
haven't.
Newsmax know this show was on streaming? Should be very upset.
But yeah, so I don't know. I think it's a fun one. I think it's time though to rate it on our scale of weirdness. I think basically what we do here, Beau, is we just kind of plot it on a scale of 1 to 10 of, 1 being not all that weird and 10 being one of the weirdest things you've ever seen. I think it would be fair for you to potentially add in the rest of the show into your rating just because you know it a little more, and then we'll kind of focus on just the episode.
Well, if I'm doing the show
I think maybe do both. Do both. Do
I'll
it
do
on
both.
episode and then also series as a whole.
So, like, for this episode, I would say maybe 5.5.
Okay.
Maybe a 6, maybe. It's not, like I said, it's not the weirdest show that they've done. It's just my favorite of their weirder episodes. The show as itself, I would give it maybe an 8.5 and 9.
Oh, wow.
On the weirdness scale. It's very weird. I mean, there are sex demons. There's a sleep paralysis demon. That's actually pretty scary. There's all kinds of weird shit.
Sounds to me like they should have just called this show Weird.
You get into like some self-mutilation later. There's lots of weird shit going on in the show. So The show as a whole, I would say 8.5 overall. This episode, maybe 5, maybe 6.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Skinner, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking just 7.5. It's knocked up a 0.5 by the description of the cartoon being completely off, which just fucking delighted me.
You know that I chose this for you, right?
Yes,
Because
and
of
it
the
starts
Christmas
with Joy to the
content.
World. So I was like, this is my shit. And like any scene that they weren't singing, I was like, why aren't they singing? I pointed out that I really like the Christmas tree. But yeah, I think it has that good weirdness of the weirdness being there to keep you on edge.
Yeah.
Where the characters are, everything, the show is in on it, but the characters aren't. And when you have that ability to throw something in that you aren't expecting, and this show seems like it could do that quite often.
Mhm.
That is a very, very strong use of the weird for a
Oh.
show. Once again, that's just called Evil, which is
There's actually-
fantastic.
And I forgot this. There's actually an episode that is almost completely silent. They don't say, there's no like spoken dialogue.
Like Buffy.
And it's a little like that Buffy episode.
We'll just keep
They're in a
doing that.
monastery where everyone's taking a vow of silence.
Oh, interesting.
And they're not
It's a-
allowed to speak either. So yeah.
That's actually a better setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just from the kind of images I've seen of this show and like the little pictures and stuff, and the
goat.
the goat man, and then there's a couple other like demon things that I've seen that look pretty gnarly. I think judging from like maybe because this episode isn't quite as weird, maybe as you said that the show gets, but knowing that there is some other like even weirder stuff coming, I'll kind of grade a little bit on a curve. I think I'm going to go like 6 for this one. But yeah, I did enjoy it. I think it's I like the cast. I'm interested to potentially watch a few more of these. Who knows if I'll ever do it, but yeah, I think that's the way to go.
Yay.
I'm impressed that so this did start one season in CBS.
Okay.
Its premiere was watched by 7.96 million people
All right.
back in 2019, which it clearly by the end it did by 5.8 million. They moved it off network TV to streaming, right?
Yeah.
Probably both to bolster the streaming, but also because that probably wasn't great ratings at the time. It's only been 2 or 3 years since then. People would fucking shit their pants for 7.96 million people to watch your show now.
Yeah.
And
Cord
this
cutting.
show has a very solid and loyal fan base.
It
I can
has
imagine.
universal acclaim in quotation marks on the reception area for Wikipedia. Because I can
Oh.
use Wikipedia too, show writers.
Real quick before we wrap up here, and I'll put you on the spot a little bit. What is the song that would get stuck in your head that would make you do a very bad thing?
Oh, let's see. That's a good question. I mean, I have ADHD, so like songs actually get stuck in my head pretty frequently. It's the source of a lot of my insomnia is I actually can't sleep at night because I have pieces of songs that just repeat in my head. It's very annoying. So there are some songs that I can't listen to before bed. I actually prefer not to hear any music before bed just for this reason. For me, Spice Up Your Life, the Spice Girls.
Okay.
That's one. Spice Up Your Life. It just gets in there. Anything by RuPaul is danger zone. I really
Fair.
can't because it'll get stuck in my head. I'll just be laying in bed and, she's a glamazon,
All right, Skinner, what about you?
This is very situational to this year, but probably the prologue song for Into the Woods, because my daughter was doing a school play for Into the Woods, and she basically sang that nonstop for 5 months
Oh, yeah.
to practice it, and then was too sick to actually do the show.
Oh,
Oh.
But
bitter irony.
bitter irony. But she, I had to hear into the woods and out of the woods and into the woods and out of the woods and into the woods and out of the woods. Literally from the moment she woke up, she would just sometimes just walk around, like she would wake up in the middle of the night and like go get some water while singing it at like 2 a.m. It was like involuntary on her part. So you guys just missed out on that, by the way.
And for me, this is weird and it doesn't really make any sense, but this is the
Cotton Eye Joe by Rednecks.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
No,
It is catchy.
This is the first song
That's
that
a good song, true.
for some reason popped into my head, and I don't know why, but that's how this thing works. But it's Steppin' Out by Joe Jackson.
Oh, yeah, that song for sure.
It just gets in there, man. It's got that little tinkly melody. And
Yeah. Yeah. Joe Jackson, Supertramp, any of the like more piano heavy musical acts.
Do you ever find like too much piano when you're like not relaxed is kind of like jankly on your nerves?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can feel the striking of the keys.
Like sometimes I'm like, not today, Jim Steinman. Not today.
Sometimes, but not always.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Beau, for being on this episode of
thank you.
Center
It was
of
my
Weirdness.
pleasure.
Yes, we're so happy to have you. Please promote all the things that you want people to listen to.
Well, as you said at the top of the show, I have a podcast with Megan Sunday where we are reading and discussing Frank Herbert's Dune series chapter by chapter. We're about to finish Children of Dune, probably sometime this month or in the next few weeks. And then I also have another show which has been off, on permanent hiatus for about 3 years now, but Excessively Diverted with Sammy C and myself. We just recorded a new episode on the Hulu original movie Fire Island, which is a gay retelling of Pride and Prejudice. It's very good. And then you can always read my work at the Spool. I mostly write about television.
You can buy your books.
Yeah, they're there too.
I mean, it'll come up in a Google search.
Yeah. Unlike Evil Show. Beau
I mean,
North
like it's got better. Your
really
books have
does.
better SEO.
Yeah, it does have better SEO.
Yeah, exactly. And both of those shows are great. I think been on, each of us have been on that show. Have been on both.
How many shows have we been on all together?
A lot
over the years.
A
few.
lot.
under different headers.
Yeah, under different headers, under different banners. But it's always a pleasure to talk with you, Beau. Thank you for coming on again. Thank you for bringing the show to our attention, because honestly, I'd heard of it but never would have listened to it or watched it if not for you. So thank you. And thanks all of you out there for listening. If you like the show, feel free to go and rate and review us wherever you find it, on Apple Podcasts or wherever. We would really appreciate it. Give us a 5-star review, because why not? And
what does it cost you?
It costs you nothing. I mean, until Apple starts making you pay for stars, give them away for free.
Until some right-wing nut buys them and makes you pay for them.
Yeah.
Pay for retweets.
All stars are just bored apes now.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter as well, until they make you pay to do that as well. To favorite our tweets, we're at Weird Center on Twitter. But until next time, when we're back talking about another weird TV show, I've been Josh.
I've been Skinner.
I've been Beau.
And we want you to keep it weird out there.
Da 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 da.
If it hadn't been for Cotton Eye Joe, I'd been married a long time ago. Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? If it hadn't been for Cotton Eye Joe, I'd been married a long time ago. Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
You've been listening to Center of Weirdness. If you like this show, rate and review us wherever you find it, but especially on Apple Podcasts. You can listen to every episode at centerofweird.com, where you can also find all of the old Predictocast episodes. And if you want to get in touch with us to tell us about a show we should cover, hit us up on Twitter at WeirdCenter. As always, thanks for listening.